Okay, guys, we're going to get started, so if you can sit down, please. Actually, a few minutes over. And we still have lots of cool stuff to go. There is more where that fire hose came from, so hopefully you're getting it all. Don't forget that Joel is posting all of the decks as PDFs into the group. So especially that last session where I know lots of stuff was coming past really fast, you want to go and look at that at your leisure. That's going to be in the group. And also, by the way, I should point out all the videos from today are going to be up online either this afternoon or early tomorrow morning. So if any of your colleagues or friends or whatever want to catch up on stuff, it's going to be available as soon as we can get it. All right, without further ado, I want to hand over to our next two presenters, Paul and Sara, who are going to tell you about some of the work we've been doing on the open source side on HHVM. Take it away, guys. Yes.
Hi. I'm Sara. This is Paul. We're going to talk about the open source side of HHVM, getting the actual code out to you so you guys can use it and make it awesome. And if none of you know me, I've been working on PHP for like the past 12 years or so, a little off and on. So I definitely love PHP. I am PHP, and I care a lot about this project. But for now, I'm going to toss this off to Paul, who's going to do some talking.
Thanks, Sara.
I'm articulate.
Hi, I'm Paul. You might remember me from the HHVM intro video. Sorry about that. And the trailing comma support. I'm not sorry about that. That I'm happy about. How did this become my claim to fame? Whatever. Okay. We're going to run through a few things on the open source side and then open up to a bunch of questions, as Sara said. Oh, intro myself. I've been at Facebook 4 years, which is a long time here now. I've been on HHVM for a year and a half. So I started, like Josh did, up in the product end. I wrote like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript and slowly fell down the stack. And now I don't know, maybe I can join the kernel team next. That's probably on my list. But we'll stay with HHVM for now. Okay, what does HHVM look like now? We have a release process. Yay, we're a real project. So we hit 3.0. That was a major version bump with Hack. We decided that this is, an important enough thing to do a major version bump. The plan is not to get stuck on a version number like every other open source language. We aren't going to be PHP 5 or Perl 5 or... Is Perl 6 out? Or is that dead? Perl 6? Okay, Perl's stuck at 6. Anyways, we don't want to get stuck in a major version number. So that people know this, we want to be like, Chrome and Firefox, the awesome cool kids that can keep bumping major version numbers. So plan is about once a year. Look for nice stuff once a year. We also have minor version releases every 8 weeks. So you're going to see new packages rolling out every 8 weeks. Inside Facebook, we release every 2 weeks, which is kind of insane for an open source project to be released at that cadence. So we decided to do every 4th one. So you'll see our releases every 4 weeks. We also have a fun thing. If you release every 2 weeks, how many times do you release a year? 26, right. What else has 26 things? The English alphabet, yay! So we are naming our... Wow, people just invented this. This is great. So we are naming our releases off of the English alphabet letters with whatever category we want. And the inaugural category is hip-hop. Obviously, it's the correct category for our project. So the first 3 releases were Appleseed, Beastie Boys, and Coolio. And then the next 4, the H name is awesome. If you guys check the news file, the release for H, is Mark in the audience? I don't think he's here. But he came up with an awesome release name. So anyways, keep an eye out for the 4 releases as you go through the news file. Just a fun thing to do as we're launching. And we are going to do security bug fixes on whatever release lands in your distro of choice. So when a release lands in distro, Debian, Ubuntu, as they're taking us in, we're going to keep that one as the security patches and then roll ahead on the standard release process from normal people. Okay? That's our release process. We now have one. Yay. Okay, this is kind of exciting. Or horrible. The inbuilt web server is dying. It is dead in the packages, so if you're using the packages, it is gone. So please don't use our web server. I posted a big diatribe about why this is happening, mostly because about 50% of the questions we've gotten on HHVM is, how do I make my web server do rewrite rules? So instead, please just use Nginx, use Apache, use a web server that you understand how to use, and put HHVM behind that, the same way that you would do with PHP. So that is really exciting. This guy over here has been a great contributor to us to get fast CGI support working very well. Apuki. I don't actually know what his real name is. Yeah, I don't know. I know him on IRC and GitHub. That's about it. Great guy. So libevent is gone. You no longer have this crazy like build time dependency. Has anyone built HHVM from source? Hands up. Okay, I'm really sorry. That must be Elizabeth like. So now this crazy weird dependency is gone, and it was our last weird dependency, which was the main blocker for this. So now Debian has authorized us to land. Yay! So our last weird dependency disappeared. We're now ready to go in. Fabian has been doing a great job of us, doing our packaging for us. Should be a couple of months before we get in, and then Ubuntu follows after that, and all the major distros just start going. So that's exciting. Until then, I have been doing the packaging, so I just learned how to be a packager, so I'm sorry. Basically, you run apt-get install HHVM after installing our repository, and your HHVM will just appear. It's much faster than all the people who have actually compiled it from source. We have something really exciting. We're following PHP in the separable extension story. So right now, HHVM is this monolithic, kitchen sink. Soon you will have the useful kitchen sink, maybe just one side of the sink as your HHVM package, and then have a bunch of other extension packages you can install. So if you want all the crazy weird extensions, you can just install those on yourself, and you don't have to pay the price to get the big monolithic package. That's cool. Another thing that's fun to announce that I posted on the blog this week is we have debug builds. So if you ever hit a seg fault, HHVM never ever crashes, right? It's a perfect, awesome source. But on the weird one event that it does crash, please install the debug package, and you'll have all the debugging symbols that you can report a stack trace nicely to us, and we can actually fix your issue instead of like hand wavy. Please send us your source, and we'll have to run it to get it to debug. So that's cool. Sara's working on dev packages, so soon you won't have to install the entire source to compile a separable extension, which she's going to talk about later. And you heard about at lunch, Heroku. So we have a Heroku build pack that works. So you can land us on Heroku. It's going to be tracing both the HHVM package and the nightly package. So you're going to be able to choose whether you want, stable or bleeding edge to, send us more stack traces. Okay, the stuff most people have been waiting for, frameworks and parity. How much PHP code does HHVM work on? I mean, we're at a hack conference, but I mean, everyone else hopefully probably knows PHP and has existing PHP code bases. Fred has been slaving away. Is Fred here? Fred's there. Yes, there's Fred. He's been slaving away hard to get us to pass all of the top framework tests. We can now announce that 18 of the top 33 GitHub frameworks have their entire unit test suites passing 100%. The other ones are minor, crazy, weird things like, if you, as Drew pointed out, all the weird parts of the language, if you dive into an abyss and find some crazy thing, Fred is fixing it. That's our test rate. We also have new extensions. Sara wrote internationalization in the last big one, and Email wrote MySQLi. So those were our two last big extensions. Another one people are asking for is Mongo. No, Mongo is not in. Yeah, I think MongoDB is the next big one that we're going to start tackling. Anyone want Mongo? Okay, all right. So if you have other ones that you really care about, come talk to me after or post on GitHub. Let it be known that we need this extension. But we're definitely tracking these and trying to get on them. But there is one other crazy thing that you might have seen is this source compatibility layer that I was trying to make work last year, and it turns out it actually did work. Basically, if you have a PHP extension that's is just sitting there as a PHP source, you copy it into the HHVM tree, and then you compile. And it most of the time works. So basically what we do is we have all the headers for all the functions that normal PHP extensions are going to call, and it just translates those into HHVM calls. So whenever you need to parse the parameters, it'll do an HHVM call. Or whenever you need to get something off the stack, it'll call into HHVM. So this sort of works. There's been a bunch of recent work on it by Tim Sterling. Where's his picture was later, I guess. But it's going to be it's actually working. So try it out. If you find bugs in it, post to us. Drew as well has been doing a wonderful job. Your speaker earlier, approving all these diffs or not approving them too. Okay, here's our big post. You can find more on the URL, hhvm.com/frameworks. Fred has been maintaining this awesome page that shows you what our pass rates are on different people's unit test suites. We run it every day, and if things go under 100%, we go look at them. Fred wakes up in the morning and fixes it. All right, something else that's pretty exciting. A year ago, we had accepted 3 pull requests into HHVM. So we just got serious. We're starting to pull this entire thing back together. And in the past year, we have accepted 450 different pull requests from 150 different contributors. So this was an enormous year for the open source effort on HHVM. People are using it. People are pulling us in. People are developing on us. It's been really exciting. About 1,000 issues were opened in the last year. We got to about 2/3 of them. So that's kind of cool. The other third is still there for our effort. So that's what we're going to be working on the next couple of months. This is our entire job, is to make these numbers go to 0, make the issues go to 0, and it all worked. This is a fun graph. This is our number of commits per week. So we have actually been active pretty much every week. There was a American Thanksgiving break here. So some people were a little less active, but we still managed to land 50 diffs during that week. And up to 160 commits in the last 2 weeks ago. 160 commits, pretty exciting. Move fast. There's another really cool project in HHVM. We somehow convinced universities to let students take HHVM as a course. So that's kind of cool. I don't know where this appeared from, but we got the offer and we jumped on it. So these 8 students have been giving us wonderful contributions. They basically all took a framework and made it hit 100%. That was their course credit. Kind of cool. 3 of them don't even have profile pictures on GitHub, but they've nonetheless done a great job. So that's where some of the 100% have come from. And I also want to talk a bit about the language. So you saw before about, primitive type hints, return type hints, generics, collections, asyncs, all the awesome things in the language. But what's coming up next? So the 2 big efforts that the open source team wants to focus on is a consistent standard library, right? So the number one thing that everyone makes fun of PHP for is it's standard library, argument order, consistency, that should be a thing. Or naming might be a nice thing to be consistent on. So we want to sit down and think hard about what a standard library would look like. It shouldn't be, unfamiliar. So every people should still understand, if you know what array map does, there should be a function that's the same, maybe called array : map. Might be a good name for it. Whatever. Sit down and think hard about this. If people want to be involved in this project, please post your ideas. We're going to be posting documents and all sorts of stuff as we design this and think about this. So please get involved. And number 2, there's a lot of warts in the runtime of the language too. So there's a lot of weird little corner cases that you don't often hit, but when you hit them hard, and it sucks. So for example, if you have a max int and you add 1 to it, what do you get? A float, exactly. A float of 1 plus the max int. So it makes sense as far as math works, but from a type perspective, this is a disaster. Every increment operator can change the type of the variable, right? So in most programming languages, you get min int, which is the you overflow in the register and you go back up to the bottom. It's weird for your programming, but you probably should be aware of this fact anyways, instead of just magically turning into a float. So we're going to start adding a bunch of runtime settings that you're going to be able to turn on. They're going to all start with hack.lang.something. They're default to off. Then there's going to be a setting to turn them to warn mode. So, warn me when you've changed from an int to a float. And you'll check your logs, run this in production with this setting as warn for, a couple weeks. Try to find all your places where you are doing the conversions, and then turn it to on, and now you no longer roll over to floats. There's probably going to be 200 of these different INI settings that we're going to slowly fix all the corner weird cases of the language and hopefully make your programming life better for using hack. Sound fun, eh? Okay, now I'm going to hand off to Sara, and she's going to finish off our open source stuff.
Thank you. So everybody's running your site on Linux, on x86 hardware, right? And nobody cares about any other platform. Am I right? Elizabeth is laughing at me because Windows doesn't get any respect. We want to respect Windows. We want to respect OS X. We want to respect other processors even. So that's what we're working on as one of our mini projects. Windows, wow, your name is Windows. No, your name is Elizabeth. Elizabeth, who's sitting right over here, is working on our Windows port. She's going to have interp mode running for us pretty soon here, hopefully. She's also going to be working on getting JIT going after that, because the JIT is hard. We have gotten Mac support working, and that's thanks largely to Daniel Sloof, who is out here somewhere probably. There he is, yes. He's gotten interp support working on Mac, and then we keep breaking it, and then he fixes it again, and then we keep breaking it. We're going to move it up to a first-class citizen pretty soon, and we're going to get JIT support working as well. We've also been working on getting this to run on other processors. Right now, you have to have a 64-bit x86 processor. We're going to make it so you can run that on ARM as well, and potentially others in the future. We've built the framework around being able to make those nice and modular. So, yeah, that's where we're at now. Like I said, ARM is at interp mode, but JIT hopefully coming pretty well. JIT has limited support. We're going to make that better. In the meantime, this is sort of my little gem. This is my corner of reality. One of the things I didn't mention in my intro, I have been working on PHP for a very long time, and I wrote the book on writing extensions for PHP. So when I got to HHVM and I looked at the extension API, I said, oh my God, this is actually worse than PHP. I didn't think that was possible. So we've set aside this IDL form of extensions, and we've created a whole new one from scratch that I think sort of makes it all a lot better and a lot easier to work with. And I'll show you some examples of that. HNI stands for HHVM Native Interface. It's sort of inspired by Java's JNI, if you're familiar with that at all. Things look familiar. And we've started to port our extensions. We're about halfway through changing them from the old IDL format to HNI. Why are we doing that? Well, the IDL formats could not be disabled. Whatever was delivered with the HHVM distribution, you had to build every single extension, and you had to have all the libraries to support those. You're not using MySQL? Too bad. You have to have libMySQL client. You're not using ImageMagick? Too bad. You have to have Magic 1 and Magic Core installed. With HNI, you can just say, oh, I don't have those libraries. I don't build them. Turn them off, and everything's fine. So that's one of the many reasons we're switching those over. HNI also allows you to be able to load extensions dynamically. Paul mentioned that we're going to start splitting up our packages into HHVM and then HHVM-MySQL, HHVM-PGSQL, whatever. That's going to give us the ability to load those dynamically. And there was a picture on one of his slides for James Miller, who's right up here in the middle. He wrote the PGSQL extension completely as a third-party extension. It's not part of our package, but it works pretty awesome, and it just plugs right in thanks to this new layer. So, sorry, I forgot the other pictures that were right here. The picture in the top right here, that's Simon Welsh. He's sitting there next to Atch. He's been doing a lot of those conversions for us. So again, good participation by the community. Starling working together. He's thrown a whole bunch of bugs back at me to say HNI sucks and this needs to work better. So he's helping me make that work better. Tim Starling over down here at the bottom, he's been doing some work both with the XN compatibility layer that Paul wrote and with HNIs to make them work very nicely together. So he's been doing a lot of contributions, and I just wanted to call out both those people because they're cool people. You're all cool people. Come on. So what does writing extension look like? This is a PHP extension, regular PHP, not HHVM. This is the array column function specifically. I've taken all that code and I've compressed it down as much as I can to try and make it fit on a slide you can actually read from there. I imagine people in the back might not quite be able to tell what it says, especially if your vision is as bad as mine. But this is kind of a pain to work with. We've got multiple stars in here, dereferencing values out to weird splats, passing things by reference using C semantics. It's really kind of messy to work with. There's got to be a better way. Here's that same function written in PHP, and this is actually exactly how you would write this for HHVM, because our extensions are actually a mixture of C++ and PHP code. Anything you can write in PHP, you should write in PHP. It makes sense to do that because you have a lot more engineers who can work on that. You're going to make a lot fewer mistakes about, oops, I had a buffer overrun that I didn't realize, and now everybody's got my client's credit card infos or whatever. A lot fewer chances for mistakes, a lot easier to write, and much more concise. I mean, that's a lot less code over there, right? But okay, this is cheating. not every HNI extension is going to look like this. You're going to need some C++ code as well, right? Because you got to call into libraries. So here's that same function written using C++ code, but it looks a lot the same, doesn't it? Compared to the PHP we just had up here, this is very similar looking code. If somebody came into this, they only know PHP, they can probably look at this code and figure out roughly what's going on. There's going to be a few weird things in there, when to use a dot versus an arrow, what the heck does auto mean, that sort of thing. But you can look at the code and you can make sense of it, right? That's one of our goals, is to make sure that you don't have to read a 400-page book to figure out how to write an extension. I shouldn't have to write another book for writing extensions in HHVM. It should write itself. And you know what? That's exactly what it did. Because James wrote that PG-SQL extension with no documentation. Simon did those conversions with no documentation. Tim completely converted his XN compat layer with no documentation. And I think that's the best testimonial that you can have on that one. So this is what crossing that barrier looks like. I mentioned that we were inspired by JNI rather. When you declare a function in your PHP file, you don't give it a body. Just terminate with a semicolon, just like it's an abstract function, no braces. But we add this native thing up to the top using those user attributes. Everything's starting to tie together, isn't it? This tells the compiler, I have a function I want to expose. It's a PHP function called arrayColumn. It should be accessible from PHP. Here's all of its types that Hax knows about. Here's its return type. It's an array, but it's native. So don't compile an actual body for it. Whenever somebody calls this, go to that C++ implementation, the one that we had right back here. And all the types map exactly. You're not asking the stack to parse the parameters for you. They're just input values that go straight to your output. And of course, you can use it with classes as well, and you can mix it with PHP code. So we've got a lot of extensions already where we've taken code that used to be C++ and we've made it PHP code because it's more maintainable. And as it turns out, there's a cost involved with switching context between the PHP layer and the C++ layer. If we can avoid switching context, it makes it run faster. So technically, our PHP code is actually running faster than the C++ code with a big asterisk. So that's HNI. I just wanted to gush on it for a while because I think it's really cool, and I'm really excited to be working on it. The next thing I want to talk about is open development. As I said, am part of the PHP group. I work on PHP. I have been committing patches to regular PHP along with my HHVM stuff. And whenever the subject of HHVM comes up, I hear one common complaint every single time. This is something that Facebook's doing behind closed doors or without the input of the community, things like that. One can argue how accurate those complaints are or not, but what we are doing regardless is making it more open with every single day. We're trying to make sure that there aren't any walls, there aren't any doors. So we're getting rid of black boxes. Black boxes are bad. We already have IRC channels where each of us are hanging out at any time of the day. Come on in, say hi, ask your questions. We've got a general one for just how do I use HHVM? How come this script isn't running the way I expect it to? And a development one for, hey, I think we need to take a variant by double reference to call into the translation cache halfway through the blah, blah, blah. You can get really technical in the dev channel. We've got matching groups on Facebook. There is a Facebook page, which is largely just for announcements, Facebook general group for how do I do this, and a Facebook dev group for, hey, I think we should refactor this bit of code to make the JIT run faster. And of course, we also have a Twitter account because, hey, we don't care how you communicate as long as you communicate, right? So we man those. We're also got a couple things coming up. We've got reviews.facebook.net is our publicly facing Fabricator instance. We're going to start using that for all of our development on HHVM. That means every patch, whether it's developed internally or externally, is going to go up for review there and can be discussed publicly. We all know what's going on with the language. We all know sort of the planning that goes into it. And when it gets approved by somebody else, because everything has to get reviewed by somebody else in order to land in the code base, then it gets committed to the repository and it shows up in GitHub immediately rather than having the one-day lag that we have right now. So that'll be cool. We're also considering, this is sort of a nascent idea, but considering opening up our weekly design meetings to the public, either through video recordings or live video conferencing sort of things, so that as we're saying, hey, I think we can get a 5% win by doing this thing over here. What do you think? We can get everybody in the room, which gets more ideas going on, which gets everyone else more invested, and everybody's happy. So that's as much as I've got. Do we have questions at this point? You point, because I can't really see hands out there.
Oh, okay.
Hi.
Really bad vision.
Hi, are PSL extensions supported by HHVM?
Yes. As long as they're written for the HNI version of things and not the IDL things, you can build your package as a DSO using, again, Atch's example of the PG-SQL extension. As long as you've already got a build of HHVM on your system, you would git clone his repository. You would say hphpis, which is kind of like phpis, cmake and make, and that will make you pg.so, which you can load up through your HDF as dynamic extensions, brace, star equals pg.so.
INI support as well.
Or through INI, yeah. Short answer, yes.
I also spend a lot of time in the HHVM channel, so it's like me in there.
Yeah.
You keep hearing me refer to him as Atch, as AATCH. That's where you'll find him.
Are there any plans for support on non-Debian Linux systems? Also, A. Pucky on GitHub. His full name's Anthony Pucky.
I have to call him Anthony now.
Tony.
I like A. Pucky. Yes, so we are going to support those, absolutely. So I'm building packages for Fedora, for Debian, Ubuntu, and I think Arch, but I didn't get the package fully built. We basically want the packages to import us so that we don't have to be the packagers. That's like not our core competency, and I'm just pinch hitting right now. So talk to your distro.
And we will happily work with your distro as well.
Yeah, we're a happy upstream.
So on the note of Code Academy, Mongo also was gifted 7 students, and they've been researching a Mongo driver for that. So to that end, when is the dev package coming out? Because that would save us 4 or 5 hours of compile time and make Travis possible.
Soon. I don't have it prioritized right now, but it is definitely something I want to get out in the short term, not the long term. About as much as I can say there.
That's Sara speak for a couple of weeks.
Or unless I get a feather up my nose and
It appears tomorrow. Yeah. We got more time. I saw a hand move over here, or was that scratching? You were scratching. Okay, cool.
Actually, we've caught up a little on the schedule, so
Good then.
these guys are going to be around all day, of course. Thanks very much again.